to us. Now, what Patrick likes is people to ask lots of questions. He operates better that way, so if you've got any questions, please don't hold back.
Yes.
Over to Patrick.
Okay, so I wrote originally a little stuff down. I know it gets emotional for myself sometimes because I don't really discuss my diagnosis. So my name is Patrick Italo Ettenes. I'm from Barbados. I'm 34 years old, and I got recently diagnosed with frontal atrophy, which is the front lobes of the part of the brain that affects behavior and personality. I'm the youngest in UK with it. My struggles came really early, over 5 years ago. And so the truth of the matter is, 5 years ago, I was in an abusive relationship. As a result of that, I had a complete nervous breakdown. I had to learn how to walk, talk, and speak again. Over that period of time, I was also homeless. Like a car, I always see human behavior is like a vehicle. When something's wrong and you're on survival mode, you see all the lights flashing, but you can't do anything about it until you reach into a garage and then you know how screwed up you are. And that was like myself. Until I actually got my own home, I started realizing my behavior, my personality was not right. And I said to my mom, there's something not correct with my brain. I became very antisocial. I developed schizophrenia. And the voices were so loud, they were like anyone talking next to me. And I could not believe that I was this person once more again. I then started, funny enough, the voices, the ones that actually told me in the next 48 hours you'll have a stroke. And you need to breathe and be calm, and it will pass. And over time, they also then said to me that you had brain damage. Funny enough, I had a CT scan, which got lost. But on my third stroke, which I collapsed in the street, I had to go to a stroke clinic. And there they looked at my scan and noticed that I had more brain wastage than anyone they've ever seen my age before. And the voices just went quiet. They said, oh, you have frontal atrophy. I quickly Googled it and found out that's a result of schizophrenia as part of the condition. And my voices went very quiet, suddenly. And I was left alone with it. Ever since then, I was left alone with my diagnosis, and I had struggles with it. I'm 34, at the time I was 33 years old, or 32 years old, and I live on my own. So I live by myself. I don't have any family. My friend here is with me today, but I didn't really have anyone around me. And to go about and discuss that there's something wrong with yourself is very difficult. And so I went to the benefits office, and I was denied my benefits originally because I turned up by myself. Even though it's stipulated I'm a young person I'm a vulnerable adult living on Durham. My journey has taken me through different directions within the Alzheimer's Society. I contacted the Alzheimer's Society. I was a writer, and I'm HIV positive for 15 years this year. My atrophy is a collaboration of many different things that went wrong. My HIV, I had a substance abuse issue at the time as well, as a result of my relationship and stuff. All these factors did not contribute really well to it. And frontal atrophy, through theses, show that high amounts of trauma can cause the degeneration of the brain. But because of the collaboration of lots of different things, I believe that's what caused it. I went to a stroke doctor on my birthday, not this year, but 2 years ago, to be told with a hand in the face, you're too young to have dementia, so get out of your head. I became almost an expert on my own condition. I had to learn a lot about it because no one wanted to tell me anything. And I asked the doctor repeatedly so many different things, and he just ignored them. He was almost too afraid to tell me the truth. I ignored it. I was within 15 minutes I was out of the room. It took me 4 months to get an appointment. My mom said to me, look, they're lying to you, something's not right. And behold, behold, I had to almost blackmail my psychologist to tell me the truth. I was a TV producer, and in that time I had the Alzheimer's Society come onto my show to discuss what dementia was. I asked specific questions because to get an answer, which by legal reasons, they had to go through their media department, which means anything that was aired on the television was legit. By presenting that to my psychologist, he then admitted that you have early onset dementia. That is when I realized that I had a little bit of a mission. I didn't want anyone to go through what I went through. Living alone, being gay or not, they shouldn't have to struggle by themselves. I had my best friend pass away last year, and I became suicidal. I told my mom, and for 1 month I asked for an appointment, and nothing happened. My mother contacted the Alzheimer's Society, thank God to them, I got an appointment within a week. And that's the issue. Why on earth should I have to ask my mother to go from 5,000 miles away to make an appointment for myself? And this is the issue with it. I realize that people with dementia, when you're by yourself, is a struggle. So my advocacy started going towards people from the LGBT community who we all know that are not here half the times. We are everywhere else, but when it comes to support groups and stuff, we disappear. A large amount of the LGBT community, when they reach 50, just vanish off the gay scene. Because they notice if something's wrong, we become reclusive. And I started doing work with that. And last year, I started speaking out more about people who are by themselves. And for the first time, I advocated what I felt like it was for someone with dementia to feel like. And a lady called Chris, 70 years old, got up and said to me, "It's like you're speaking for me." And I got my validation that I wasn't insane, because so many people told me that yes, you have it, then you don't have it. My diagnosis finally came a few months ago, and the exact words of my psychologist was, "If I believed in religion, I would consider you a miracle. I should not function the way that I do. And for some reason, I'm very highly functional." But he said, "You're living proof that if someone keeps busy, your brain can develop new neurons or new pathways to learn to cope with the situation." I had to. I have a very bright gay lanyard that I use for my keys. I have to show you. I don't remember my keys, I remember the lanyard. And that's something I had to start understanding for myself. And I started, my parents are from a psychological background, and we strip apart everything, we discuss things and think of things. And I write everything out. My whole life is written out. And I started realizing that when I was in the gym, it's not the keys I remembered I had something bright. And I started thinking, my God, maybe just how other people with dementia started behaving. My father has Alzheimer's, and because of myself, I'm now able to communicate with my dad. He is a very proud gentleman, but he's also a police officer, and he always was very good at remember where things were as an individual. But not to remember where he put something 5 minutes ago was very destroying for him. And I'm now able to understand how people believe and how people feel. I went self-destructive when I found out a couple years ago that I had dementia. But I have a right at my age to self-destruct. Whether it was drinking a lot or going out, I wanted to forget. But this is the part where I always believe the psychological aspects of having a diagnosis is not always looked at. It is important people remember that when you reach 50, 60, 70, you're an individual who's worked very hard for your life. You work very hard to be the person who you are today. But when that's been taken away from you, it's like you have to become a whole new person again. And that's difficult. And as much as we support people, I think people also don't understand that these people sit down there with a smile on their face, but they really want to go nuts. They want to get angry, they want to cry, they want to, they want to let it out, but they can't because they have family around them, they have kids, they have responsibilities. And this is part where I thought to myself, I'm very lucky at my age to be able to release it. But I also had to realize the struggles of the stigma that dementia has from the opposite end. Oh, I forget things as well. Oh, you can't have it, you're too young. Oh, you can drink a juice. Or my neurologist said to me a few months ago, you don't have dementia because the way you're dressed, wearing Zara, it doesn't, it prevents you from having dementia. I know, I look good, but I took pride in myself. But it has nothing to do with it. It's the ridiculous statements that come out of stuff. I have schizophrenia as part of my condition, and I always advocate the voices in my head because it's real. The more you lock in what's inside of you, the struggles alone with it is. And I realize that dementia also causes schizophrenia, which mine does, but other parts of the brain also cause schizophrenia. But that's one aspect that no one ever discusses. Because I'm able to articulate myself, and that's the part my psychologist says, that's the part that's increased, and I can talk for England. I noticed that people hold on a lot. The culture in England is that we don't really express our personal feelings. I'm from Barbados, we talk everything out. But it's different here. You talk about a lot of stuff, but what really gets to you, we don't open up. And what I do notice is that when you hook someone for a question, they will release everything. And it's about getting people to accept the condition as it is, but also to understand that people with dementia really, really hold in a lot of shit. So forgive my vocabulary, but we do. I don't ever discuss my condition unless I'm sitting here today. And I usually bubble out in tears and crying. I spoke in an event last week in London, and I, for the first time in a year, realized the physical aspects of my condition. My brain physically hurt me to the point that I wanted to throw up. It was only 6 hours of work, but that alone from last year is completely different to this year. Every single month I develop something different, or every single month I realize that something is slipping away from myself. And that part of slipping away is hard. It is really, really difficult to know that you're not going to be the person you wanted to be. My condition has given me the ability to almost regret that I didn't take opportunities before my condition took place. I take every opportunity now. I wanted people with dementia, and you all as supporters, support workers, and volunteers do an amazing job for us. You do. But I want you to also understand that you need to probe the people that you're with a little bit more, because we don't always open up very quickly. So whenever you see someone sitting down there with dementia, ask them quietly, how is it you really feel? Are you angry? Are you upset? And you'll see the response that you've never seen before. They will say, I'm scared, I'm angry, I'm frustrated. Because that's the part that we don't want to open up to. It's not it's kind of a personal thing when you're working with people, not to probe too much into their personal life, but this is personal. You're losing a part of your identity. And I want people with dementia to start fighting for themselves again, because there's an aspect about dementia that you get depressed. I became depressed for a year, but then realized I had an opportunity, like I did with HIV, to advocate for stuff. And this is my last legacy. It is. I will get a statue one day. But this is the last legacy I have, and I can't sit at home and not do anything about it. But people of a certain age will get depressed, and once they give up, that's it. And I had to sit down with my dad next week when he comes for the first time in 5 years. I get to see him and tell him, you need to fight and do more for yourself. You need to become more active, more social, because you start slipping. You're not able to talk easily. When I sit at home for weeks on end and I don't talk to anyone, by the time I start talking, it's like starting a car. It's like chug, 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 and I'm like, Jesus Christ, what the hell's wrong with me? And then it starts coming out more. But that's how our brain is. When our brain is tired and not activated or used, it's difficult. And this is the part I really, really want people, whoever meets someone with dementia, find out the state of their psychological state of mind. You're not going to be a psychologist, but you can be a friend. It's what you guys are to us, massive friends. But find out how they actually feel, what they really want to do, and probe on that, and get them to start developing the sense of that they have to move more. Because if you give up, that's it. And I noticed with myself, when I gave up, that's when everything started going wrong. My schizophrenia went through the roof. I couldn't function, I couldn't remember anything. I couldn't remember putting the phone down next to me. You know, I had to go through all my diaries to remember who I was again. And that's hard. I have a back of I'm a writer, so I wrote something on my business card, and I wrote, this, it came to me when I was sleeping. So it says, fighting to remember who you are so you can accept who you'll become. And I fought. And that's what's in the back of my card. And I wanted everyone to remember that for themselves. It's fighting of who I was. It's fighting for remember who you are, but to accept what you become. My mom said to me, just accept whatever you'll become. Because I'm young enough to know that I have a future still. I wanted to make sure that I was the person I was. I couldn't dress myself, but I wanted to dress myself again. For the first time in 4 years, I'm able to drive a car. But I love cars, but I wanted to. I will fight to do that for myself. And it's only through fighting, not giving up to somebody else to advocate for you, only through fighting for themselves, that they actually have that little bit of independence. And that's basically it for it sometimes. But yes, so basically the other part, I wanted you all to ask me questions. It's only by your questions that I learned something about myself. Is there anyone?
Patrick, do you write down your coping strategies that you have? You mentioned about you remember your lanyard rather than your keys.
Yes.
Are you recording these?
I haven't, it's difficult for myself to do things on my own all the time, but I have started noticing, so my housing, I live with Guinness Housing Trust, and funny enough, they have a dementia section, and they were at one of the meetings. So I'm sort of noticing that one of my voices actually is very more activated than ever. So he actually tells me, leave the light on the stove because it's a flat hot. So in the future, when you start forgetting stuff, you know the light is on, that you know it's hot. And now, because I've been told that 3 years ago, I actually now start doing these little things. And I start advocating that when it comes to housing developments or retirement homes, that these are little things that need to put in place. There needs to be a little list that if you have someone who has early onset dementia, to make sure the type of locks that they have so they lock themselves out, maybe to make the keys brighter, and these sort of things I have mentioned to other organizations, but maybe not maybe for myself. But I've noticed this stuff, but that's my way of getting it out, yes. I have.
You say you're a writer, is it poetry, is it literature?
So
Are you
basically,
published? Do you put it on
yeah,
the blog?
I've been published in the Huffington Post in America twice, and I was published in Manchester. So basically, when I was younger, I didn't have a lot of friends, and my diary was my best friend. I could not wait to get home to write in my diary all my business. And when I read it now, it's hilarious. I was really bad. But that's how I wrote. So I started writing in the sense of, as a friend. I have a very good, unique way of bringing people into my writing style. So whoever reads my work will understand that you can hear my voice in the writing. It brings you there, basically. So, yeah. But that's how I started off, basically. And I wrote about HIV, living as an experience. So how the way I speak is exactly the same way as I write.
And do you have like a blog or any online?
Yes, everything's online. You can just Google my name.
Because what you're saying today would be so helpful for so many people.
I was published in your magazine, I think last year.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of work with LGBT dementia work itself. But that article, and there was another article published by the DAA. It was now released after my diagnosis because it couldn't do anything before. But I've never really actually written anything about dementia from my own point of view. It was about people being interviewing myself. But I'm happy to. I'm always happy to assist any way I can, wherever I am. So if you needed a blog or anything to be written, I'm happy to assist with that.
Can I just ask, Patrick?
Yeah.
You say you've got a dementia support worker.
Yes.
Did you sort of like consider at all attending any sort of groups or anything? Or I've got a really sort of keen interest in early onset and you know, as we were talking earlier outside about young onset dementia. And one of my interests is the possibility of starting up a younger peer support group. I mean, is that something that maybe in your eyes, something that might have been beneficial?
Well, see, I found it is beneficial because when I did my own research, as I said, you become almost an expert in your own illness. 200,000 younger people in the UK are misdiagnosed with anxiety, schizophrenia, and depression. And those are early signs of early onset dementia. And now what they're starting realizing that cognitive behavioral issues, which I have, will always relate, will develop into dementia in the future. Younger people now are always misdiagnosed because I had schizophrenia, I had anxiety, and I had depression. So just by luck, they actually did a CT scan. But it would be beneficial for that aspect for people my age. I'm the youngest with my type of dementia. Frontal lobe atrophy is the most unique and oddest of all conditions. Thank you. I make it look okay. But no, it is important, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed when it comes to stuff. The younger people are actually developing schizophrenia. I mean, developing dementia at a very younger age as a result of a lot of other activities in their lives. Oh, my support workers. The reason why I never went to other support groups was I went to 2 support groups and watched it, and they were lovely. And there was a lot of ignorance, and it came from the people actually with dementia. I think sometimes people forget that having a partner is a luxury, and having family around you is a gift. I have none of that around me. And at those support groups, they were like, oh, why don't you just go out and get a boyfriend? Oh yes, of course. It's 34, I'm going to say that I'm HIV positive, and I have dementia, and in a few years I'm going to forget who the hell you are. That's not something that you go about, but it was a type of ignorance that came through it. They couldn't understand why people from my community needed something separate, and why the struggles alone from being my community is harder. Funny enough, I was on the tram and I was getting a lot of homophobic abuse from the area because people think I'm a Muslim, and the Muslim community was basically snarling at me on the tube. On the tram because I was openly gay. I'm not. And I said to the lady, as my support worker, can you imagine someone from the LGBT community coming here to go to that support group, getting that ignorant response and getting abuse on the tram just to get there? They'll never go out again. And so this is the reason why we don't go out. You know, we in the Alzheimer's Society are aware that LGBT community are not within our own support groups. They're just gone. They're not part of it. You go to any other event in England and there's always one gay person. I know the waiter. And that's just true. But here, I'm the only one who's out within your group here. And that's kind of odd. You know, it is very odd that we don't go to our support groups. And so this is the reason why I've started advocating a bit more, and I'm doing work with Alzheimer's Society. But my support worker is amazing. Her name is Julie Collins, and I said to her for Christmas, can you imagine my life without you? And she cried. She saw, finally, after so many years, now I got my diagnosis, she was there. She's realized the struggle as someone for myself to be taken seriously. Because I'm able to articulate myself, they don't take me seriously. It's almost like, and they said to me, why don't you get your mother to call it? And I was on the phone with them. I said, but she lives 5,000 miles away. I'm on the phone with you now. Why aren't you listening to me? And this is the issues that within the NHS, I noticed that there's a problem. You know, I can get anyone to turn up with me, or pay someone to come to the hospital with me, and they will talk to that person, not talk to me. I'm the sick person. Why aren't you paying me attention? And that's the reality of it. So, anyone else? Come on.
It's not really a question,
Yeah,
it's
but
just an observation that having worked with people with dementia for several years, you've actually made it real to me today, and I feel like I want to cry. It's been absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It is hard. It is, the reality of it is, I always said something like along the lines of, I know everyone wants to be positive about stuff, but sometimes you can't be. And I'm not, when everyone goes one direction, I always go the opposite direction. When everyone says, oh yeah, be positive about this and this, the reality is you need to sit down and say to them, you're going to forget stuff. It's not going to be easy. The reality is that a lot of us, I realized I gave a lecture at Manchester University, thank God. It's nice to know that I can actually do that in my life. Who knew that after being signed off, that I have achieved more in my life being signed off than I've ever done when I was working? But this is the reality of it. I lectured, and it was a lot of nurses, mental health nurses, it was volunteer staff, people who work within an NHS who deal with dementia. And there was a case where someone had dementia and the parents refused to tell the father. They didn't want to upset him. And she said it's a reality. Some people don't tell their family members that they have it because they don't want to upset them. And they have a legal right to do that. Unless that person with dementia asks the question. Then the doctor has a law, the right by law, to tell that person. But isn't that a little bit sick and sadistic that you're not told that you're forgetting stuff? And everyone around you is making you feel paranoid that everything's okay when everything's not okay? My parents tried to do that with me. When they realized there was something wrong with me, they all got together to try to pretend that nothing took place. Because I forgot everything that my boyfriend put me through. He had a complete clean slate. And I said, well, Mom, I'm having flashbacks here of stuff that went wrong. And eventually she told me. And I went, how dare you do that? But that's the same thing with some people who have dementia. They don't want to make them upset. I have a right to be upset. And somewhere in this country, the people are like, oh, I don't want to make you upset. You go and get drunk, you smash up a bar, but that's okay, or you get on bad, but you can't tell me to my face that something's wrong because you don't want to upset me. I have a right to be upset, okay? It is healthy to release emotions. I know we don't like talking about emotions, but it is real. One way or the other, each one of you goes home to one special person or does one thing to get your emotions out. Whether it's beat a dough of bread, eat a pizza, it's getting your emotions out. But I have a right to know that I am dying. It's the truth, I'm dying. You know, I tell my partner, sometimes it's difficult. I can't maybe fully fall in love with him because I'm scared that he might not be there. You know, he is amazing. He's put up a lot with me. You know, and it is, I said a couple of years ago I would never get a partner. And I actually have one. The good Lord blessed me with somebody. But now I'm too scared to fall in love because I don't want to see him get hurt.
Patrick, you've said that you're blessed because you've got a partner. I would swing that round and say that your partner's blessed that he has you as well. Yeah.
It's not easy. People put up with me in the middle sometimes. But it's not easy to know that you're not the person that you used to be. You know, and that's the part with it is that every single month you're changing, your personality's changing, you're forgetting something, you can't do something again. I just went into 6 hours of talking, well, not 6 hours talking about being at an event, and my brain hurt me. My physical part of my brain was so painful, I wanted to throw out. I just felt like if you just screw a hole in my head and let the pressure out, I never felt like that before, and that really shocked the life out of me. And just imagine someone with dementia every single month knowing that something's wrong with them and sitting there with a smile on their face. That's a ticking time bomb. You know, that's usually why they just give up, because they're too afraid to open up and say anything. But I would advise you all, personally myself, that if you're dealing with people with dementia, get them between you and yourself. Open up to you. Just get something out, and it will start flowing. We're not meant to be psychologists or counselors or therapists, but dementia friends is to be a friend to someone, and you find how important that is.
That you've acknowledged that you've said, I'm dying.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with somebody not so long back, and there's a lot of people don't realise that dementia is a terminal diagnosis. People don't talk about it because they're scared of upsetting people, they don't want people. But where I likened it to, if someone's diagnosed with cancer, they have a terminal diagnosis, they would get told that.
Yeah.
Dementia don't always get told that. I think it's really brave to stand up there and say that, but I think we need, in terms of the stigma, and get people to understand what dementia means to people, we need.
Listen, it's a truth. My mom always said to me, my mom was a nurse, my dad was a cop. So my father would see the accident and my mom would take care of the accident. They've seen death from both angles. And my mom always said to me at a very young age, where we go to the supermarket, if anything happens to us, there's a diary there, you call this person, you call your Auntie Terry, she'll take care of you. I said, Mommy, you can't tell me this. She went, listen, life, you don't know, okay? We could go outside and get hit by a bus, or get a car accident and we'll die. And then you need to know that, listen, this whole living long and having fair, that doesn't exist. Yeah? You have to know that in case something goes wrong, then you appreciate your life, but you take responsibility for your afterlife. And we always knew very quickly that death is part of life. I have to sit down with my mother and discuss my end of life at 34 years old, what I would like to do. My parents are they're too independent, and we talked about euthanasia, and this is sad. People go, oh my God, you talk about killing yourself. But I'm 34 years old. When I start reaching 40, I will look like this, but my brain will be in a cuckoo's nest. And I don't want to start forgetting that I'm gay and how many men I slept with. There's some good achievements there. But the reality is, I don't want to forget. I'm too young to forget that stuff. And I don't want to be a reliability to anyone else. I have to discuss my death. It's important. And I think sometimes we all still cocoon ourselves in this little bubble to say, oh, yes, I know you have dementia, but let's just not talk about your death because that's a bit scary. And it's scary. But it's for the person who has dementia to sometimes admit that. Or make them realize that listen, you're not getting any better, but you can appreciate and enjoy what's taking place. You don't know who you become. I became a speaker now. My mom always said to me, you'll go out and you speak to people, you help people. And I am now. Who knew? Because of my diagnosis, I get to do that. There's a lot of people who you take care of every single day, who have a lot of hope and light within themselves, who just need that opportunity and just an encouragement to go, you can still fucking live. Sorry. Yes, go.
I go to see lots of commissioners of services, people that pay us to deliver services.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm coming across at the moment is because we live in this age of austerity and people are cutting costs and things, that people are saying to me, commissioners are saying to me, Amanda, why do we need dementia-specific services? What should I say to them? From your perspective as to why we need dementia-specific services and why you wouldn't want to go to just a generalist service.
Let them speak to someone who's able to talk about their condition. Let them see the reality of how it really affects them, and let them go to meet someone with dementia. Because at the end of the day, like HIV is not a infectious disease. It affects every single person. One of you in this room would develop dementia in the future. I can't guarantee it. I don't want it. But the truth is, that could happen. It could happen. My father has it. I have it. Jesus Christ. But until they realize the reality that it could affect them, then you see a different tone to their mind. I think putting anyone in political empowerment in front of someone who's sick and let them see it for themselves and listen to them, how they speak to them about what really affects them, brings them close to home. Because I think sometimes when they sit on their little trovins, they don't really pay attention to what it really is to be affected by it. I had to sit down and speak to Andy Burnham in Manchester. And I think one of the guys who eventually met from Watcher said to me, the best part about the speech was you getting it up, and I was able to throw back questions straight back to him. And he was taking off his off of his stage, because as someone who's as young as myself going, I'm sorry, but there's 2,000 younger people always misdiagnosed. What are you doing about that? How come people my age are not being advocated? How come this information is not on the NHS? Why is mental health not being taken care of? Because it's always missed. And he just went, And then his secretary came up to me and went, oh my God, yeah, you're really good, aren't you? I went, well, my dad always said I'd be a good politician. But it's only because someone's able to fight for themselves. And if a sick person is able to fight for themselves, you see them change it, because they can't get away with murder, basically. I think it's important for them to see the realities of how important it is, because it could be them in the future, in the opposite end.
Thank you.
I think it's really admirable what you're doing. I'm 31, so I can obviously really relate to that. And I think for me, I don't necessarily have anyone with dementia really close with the family, but the wider community, that's what I feel is raising that advocate for actually. There's people that have known me ever since I was a baby that I can now see are not living well, and their partners and their wives and their families are really struggling, and they're just crying for help. And actually I think it can work both ways for people who maybe aren't touched initially by dementia but still being that advocate and saying, why aren't we doing this? Like, this is going to come to a family.
About now taking responsibility for your parents. A lot of people don't sometimes think of the future of what the realities are, what it is. My father told me many years ago, and I know he knew he would develop it, but he had a car accident in the police force, almost died, a lot of brain damage, and as a result of brain damage, we knew that it would develop. I didn't really click. But he said to me, in the future, I won't be able to drive, and I want you to take care of myself, because you sucked up all the hormones, and your brother is as kind as a shark. Yeah, my brother has no empathy whatsoever. I have all the empathy in the world. But I now understood, and I took pride in it. The sad part about it is I can't take care of my mom and dad, because my mom's taking care of my dad, and she can't always take care of me.
It works both ways, actually, now thinking about it, because one of my main triggers was to support my parents if that ever happened in the future, but initially, actually, the fact that they're now more aware, they could potentially support me.
Once information's given, everything is okay. I mean, here's the reality of it. When you hold something deep inside of yourself, like guilt or information, or you know that something's not right, it eats at you. Every single day you wake up, you know that something's not right, and you're not telling someone it. It crushes you. But when you get all that shit out of your head and all that emotions, I don't talk about my dementia, because one of my friends, I've already discussed all of that. You know what I mean? The first time my friend sit in front of me to talk to me, listen to me speak, but otherwise I've cried on her sofa once or twice before, and that was it. You know, and I don't need to, because I got everything out, and that's it. It's one painful conversation of the reality of stuff, and then you all know, right? Okay, you're sick today. I get it. I understand. But when you hold all this in, how are you supposed to function? Because you're trying to be the normal sort of person, but you're sick. You're falling apart, and you're trying to be nice because you don't want them to know that you know that they're ill. And oh God, girl, okay, just let it all out. Let it all out. Anyone else? No? Thank you very much.